today's video, I'm gonna do a story time, and I'm gonna finally tell y'all why I resigned from CMPD as a crime scene investigator. This video is gonna be very vulnerable, raw, and uncut. So let's get into the video.
Okay. What made you want to be a crime scene investigator?
Excuse me. Originally, I was going to the FBI. It was stamped, it was finalized, probably up until senior year of high school. And I was like, why would I literally actually put myself in imminent danger? So I started thinking of alternatives as to law enforcement. And I was like, you love science. Why you don't be a scientist, but you can still work for law enforcement? So that's when I started the deep dive, or what I thought was a deep dive research into becoming a crime scene investigator.
What steps did you take in order to get the job, as far as like school-wise and applying?
So, of course, I did 4 years undergrad. My freshman year, I was at a PWI, Firefly University, which the institution was a criminal justice-based institution, but the environment was just very isolated and in the middle of nowhere. So I transferred to Winston-Salem State, and I had the same major there, criminal justice. And I did my 4 years, graduated, but it was really hard graduating and going like straight into a career, because like most jobs, you need the experience before you can enter into the career. So with some networking and my internship that I did in college, my resume, I was able to join. I'm looking at St. Y'all. I was able to join. We have something here in Charlotte called Citizens Academy, and in a nutshell, it's when like civilians. Officers from different units and different areas of CMPD basically brought civilians together and taught us what it means to be a part of CMPD. You know, what they do, how they got there. They share their stories with us, and it's really more of like a community thing. So I did that, graduated, got my certificate, and within Citizens Academy, we were able to tour the crime scene unit, and that's where I met the crime scene supervisor. But prior to that, I had applied for a crime scene internship with CMPD, and I think I wrote a cover letter and I sent it to her. So we had already been communicating, me and the crime scene supervisor, so she already had an idea of who I was, but that was our first time meeting face to face, and from there, that's how I was able to enter into training into being a crime scene.
How was like your training, or like your first day on the job? I'm sorry.
So it was fun.
How was your first day on the job, and how was like your training time?
So my first day was really boring, of course, because my first day wasn't actually my first day with the crime scene unit. We had to do like orientation as far as like working for the city. So that was my first day. But when I actually got into my first day with crime scene, it was difficult for me, because keep in mind, this is all very new. I'm inexperienced, and if I'm just keeping it real and being honest, college did not prepare me for what I was walking into. So it literally felt like I wasted 4 years and I had to start from scratch. But what I did love is that the crime scene unit, my trainers, supervisors, everybody was very welcoming, very kind, understanding, patient, all the above. Like, I missed them. They were like the best. As far as like understanding that all of that was new to me. I can't really remember what I did my very first day. Computer stuff. Really, like computer trainings, like, so they had to sign off on things that I did. But when I finally got my uniform, I think I started doing ride-alongs with my trainer, and I think one of the first cases we had was a break in a vehicle. The vehicle wasn't stolen, I believe. I don't know. It's hard for me to remember stuff, but yeah, I think that's the first scene I actually had been on was somebody tried to break into a car. But yeah.
What was the most fun part about working there?
Really and truly, I didn't have much fun. Nothing was. I was very nonchalant the whole time from beginning to when I resigned. Like, nothing impressed me. I didn't want to be there half the time, and that's all because of the pressures I had of being new and still learning. Like, I don't like going into something and not being prepared and not knowing what's going on. So that was very difficult for me to adjust to. So none of the aspects of the training was fun. Like, I didn't enjoy any of it. And you would think that I would, being as though it was my first time doing half of that stuff, except fingerprints. Everything else was new, so it should have been exciting and fun and intriguing. It was not. I did not want to be there. It was not fun. But I did enjoy when people brought us food, and when we had the emotional support animals come and visit us. Those were the only two things that I really like brightened my day. Like, those were the only two things I looked forward to. But even if they didn't bring us food, we had lunch. My trainers would we would go out to lunch and grab food. So that was the only thing I really enjoyed.
What was the most difficult thing about working there or doing that job?
On top of being new and green to everything and feeling ill prepared, the dead bodies. So in my duration, my first day was April 1st, ironic, right? My last day was June 7th. So in between there, I had seen 4 dead bodies. Now, mind you, I told you college had not prepared me for any of this. The usual steps people take is of course, you graduate high school, you do undergrad, and you do graduate, and you do an internship. So with all 3 of those things, you're supposed to be exposed to certain aspects of crime scene, which I did not get to experience because I went to college during COVID. So all of those opportunities and experiences had shut down. And by the time COVID was clear, it was time for me to graduate. So I didn't get to do any of that. But yeah, so the dead bodies was a no for me. Like, psychologically and like physically being in the presence made me sick to my stomach. Like, I just could not, like, and you would think after the first one I would have left, but I tried to endure it and, think about all the people that supported me and what I went through in college just to get there, and added on 3 more dead bodies. And after the 3rd one, I finally threw in the towel and was like, I cannot do this for 5 years, 10 years. Like, this cannot be the rest of my life, me doing this. No, I cannot do it. Okay, so before all the death and everything, I was already overwhelmed with life. Like, I was kind of just coasting through, and I was disciplined enough to, make it through school, make my own money, go to work and all that stuff. But still in the back of my mind, I still had my own demons I was dealing with, but they didn't present themselves until I got to CMPD, which sounds crazy, like as if it like was a trigger for me, but in all actuality, CMPD really helped me, and I'm gonna tell you why. When I got to CMPD, they were very persistent on that they care about our mental health. They care about, us psychologically and what we deal with throughout our daily lives on top of having a traumatic job. So they were insistent on, like, make sure you tell us if you feel anything, like, whatever you need, we got you. And so I love the aspect of that job. Like, they didn't throw you to the sharks, or they didn't dismiss any of your feelings. They're very, very understanding. And my very first case of being exposed to a dead body was the officer shooting. I don't remember what month it was, but we had a crazy officer shooting here in Charlotte, and I was on the scene as a trainee, and that was the first dead body I had been exposed to. And that was the moment that I realized that I need to take advantage of the therapy options and opportunities that they presented to me when I got there, because I don't want to go to sleep at night and be thinking about that man laying there. But yeah, so I took advantage of the therapy, and I went through therapy, and like I told y'all before, prior to that, I was already dealing with like not being able to get out of bed, not being impressed by anything that I was learning or what they were teaching me, not wanting to show up to work, but I did it anyway. And so I met with the therapist, and she was really cool. That was my very first time being and sitting with a therapist. So after I met with a therapist, I also met with a behavioral specialist, because it just seemed like as I kept going through the courses of my training, my depression just kept getting worse. Like, I don't know if any of y'all have ever had the feeling like you just don't. Like, everything is you just don't. I don't want to be here. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to be at work. Like, so that's what I was going through. And my crime scene supervisor set me up with a behavioral specialist. And I sat down with the specialist, and this is my very first time, like, actually even announcing this or exposing this, because I'm a very private person, that I have depression and anxiety. And I kind of had ideas about my depression, but I never wanted to like admit it. But anxiety really came from being at that job, wanting to be perfect and wanting to be the best, and having the pressure of like, and not purposely, but like just in the back of my mind, I have to be great, I have to be perfect, I can't disappoint my family, I'm in a career, this is not a job, I can't just quit. Like, a whole bunch of things were going through my mind. I was making decent money, kind of, and I finally like was, you know, on the adult train, and all that stuff just were triggers for me, and started creating a whole cloud of just a mess. But I stayed with it. I believe the next dead body I saw was, and I'm probably gonna forget some things just because, like any traumatic thing that you go through, you black it out.
So overall, what was the main reasons as to why you quit? Was it just the dead bodies, or like the other factors playing into it?
It was other factors. It wasn't just dead bodies. Like, prior to even joining CMPD, I had my own demons I was dealing with mentally, but of course I was able to like sweep certain things under the rug and be disciplined enough to go through it and just kind of just coast through life and just, you know, act like everything was fine. But, you know, being exposed to death and having the pressure on me to be great essentially for myself, and on top of, you know, feeling unprepared and all the stuff I mentioned before, it just became overwhelming. And like I said before, I tried, and my final decision came to my last scene. My last scene was an overdose, and instead of me being, you better not bite me. Instead of me just observing or just taking photographs, it was kind of more of a hands-on thing, and that being my first time. And my trainer was like, you know, come closer, come down here, and my heart is racing. Like, I do not want to be here already, and you try and make me be closer to this body. But yeah. And so while we were at the scene with the overdose, my trainer was trying to, you know, still get me to be hands-on so I can get the exposure and the experience with handling dead bodies. And when it came to it, swabbing and photographs and all that stuff. She was like, okay, come closer. Hold her eyelids open. Who? Girl, I don't even want to be in this room. You lucky I didn't run as soon as you said, okay, she's on the back wall. Like, I went to, like, every time I approached death in that job, I went to run. Like, I felt like sick to my stomach, but I'm not like a vomiter or anything like that. I just really wanted to run and go sit in the car. And so the more she kept prompting me to like touch her here, touch her there, the more I felt like I was having an anxiety attack as I was doing it. Like, she had to verbally like calm me down and assure me that, like, take your time, you don't have to rush, this is just so you get what you need as far as your training and stuff like that. And she was very patient, and I loved her. But yeah, so after that day, I sat down with my supervisor and we had a discussion, and she was like, so, what have you decided? Because we had been talking up until this point as to, really sitting with myself, and, she was reassuring me that you don't have to please everybody, you live your life. You don't have to worry about disappointing anyone in this room as far as like, my supervisors, my trainers, like, because we all understand that this job is not for everybody. And so when we had our sit down, I told her that I was going to resign. And even from there, like, they were the best. Like, she was helping me apply to jobs after that. She even let me stay up until my resign date, and like, just clean the office and do stuff on the computer and apply to jobs while I was still on the clock, like just stuff like that. And they were just really great. So my resignation had nothing to do with the people. It was, and I keep telling people it was dead bodies, because I don't feel like hearing nobody's opinions or judgments as to why I made the decision for myself, because nobody living this life but me. And it's just easier to say dead bodies because they're like, oh, we get it, rather than sit there and try to explain like my mental health and all this stuff. So I just keep it at dead bodies. And so for those that were wondering or wanting to know, this is the real truth as to why I resigned. And for those that are wanting to get into this field, please just do these things for me. Of course, when you're in undergrad, and if you are at a university that does not focus on crime scene, like WSSU is a nursing and teaching school. That was my first, not mistake, but that's where I went wrong. Make sure you at least are in your undergrad or at a university that applies to your major. That's number one. Number two, internships. COVID really inconvenienced my experience and my opportunities to get the exposure I needed before going into the field. So make sure you're doing your internships and your networking, because I'm telling you, it's not what you know, it's who you know for real. My story, literally. Make sure that it's what you want to do. Like, even though I thought that I researched everything and I knew everything, I knew the ins and outs, I knew what I was gonna study, I knew what my specific field, I knew I wanted to be in the field, like stuff like that, make sure you know. And as far as like, if you know you're the type of person, you don't like death, but you are into science like myself, don't don't exempt being in a lab as an option like me. Like, I kept telling everybody, I'm not being in no lab, that's boring. I do not want to stare into microscopes all day. I'm in the field, I'm where the action is at. And it turns out the field was not for me. I should have took my behind right into that lab, and I probably wouldn't need to be sitting here telling the story. I would be right in my lab with my salad and my fruit, looking into my microscope. But yeah, just, explore all the options. Don't exempt anything, and most importantly, take care of your mental health. It's very important. Like, I should have been in therapy before entering my career and everything else, but like most people, I thought I could handle it. I thought I had a handle on it, but that's not the case. So I implore you, please please take care of your mental first before you think about entering into any career, but especially careers where you're exposed to trauma. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn your post notifications on for when I post, because I promise I'm gonna start posting more frequently. Yeah, we're trying to do better all 2025, mentally, physically, spiritually. And stay tuned for the next video. Bye, y'all.